As General Secretary of the National Council of Churches, I'm grateful to the Council's Committee on Public Education and Literacy for raising awareness of the need for and the importance of public education reform in this country. The 37 denominations that make up the National Council address a number of pressing social issues, such things as racial discrimination and poverty and the lack of affordable health care. But no less important than any of these is the need for high-quality, universally available public education.
The public education system still works. In fact, the majority of our senators, the majority of our elected officials across the country are graduates of public schools. So when we invest in our public system, it works. We've got to recognize that the public education system is our pipeline to economic progress, progress in our democracy, and progress for our country. However, unfortunately, where we see large populations of Black, Brown, Native people, we don't see the investments that are necessary to provide them an opportunity to learn.
The greatest challenge to American society today is the concentration of racial isolation and poverty. This is a toxic combination, and where there is both intense poverty and intense racial isolation, the schools are called failing schools, but in fact these are communities that are in desperate trouble. And we're blaming the schools for the social conditions that our society is not prepared to address. If we were serious about addressing the inequities in American society, we would be, as a nation, outraged that more than 20% of our children live in poverty. I don't know of another post-industrial modern society that has numbers of that kind. These are really third world numbers. So we must address the conditions of poverty that people live in with appropriate health care, with economic opportunity, with jobs, with everything that we can think of.
I don't think it's a matter of asking whether or not we can afford to find the money to provide all students an opportunity to learn. Our country is at a point where we can't afford not to find the money. This is not an issue that impacts only the African American community and Latino community, but it's an issue that impacts all of those within our country and across the globe.
We're in a sort of a strange historical moment in terms of education, particularly public education. No Child Left Behind created what I consider a timetable for the destruction of public education. So now, to add to No Child Left Behind, along comes the Obama administration's signature initiative, which is called Race to the Top. And in order to qualify for almost $5 billion in economic stimulus funds, the states had to do certain things. And this was at a time when the states were terribly strapped for money. One of the things they had to do was to agree that if a school was, as they put it, failing, that they would apply all of the No Child Left Behind punishments of charters. They call it a turnaround, but it's really firing teachers, closing schools, turning them into charters. This closing strategy has been one that has fractured communities. There will often be many children living in the same building, going to many different schools. So that breaks up any sense of parents being able to talk to one another about common problems. In a time where people desperately need community, desperately need to be connected, and to feel some sense of potency because of their connections with their neighbors, these connections are all being severed by a policy of introducing the free market into public education. Many of these large high schools have deep historic roots in the community. They mean a lot to the community. In effect, this policy ignores that public schools are public institutions and that every community has to have a good public school. And it would be as if we were to say, if there are too many fires in the neighborhood, close the fire department. If there are too much crime, if there's too much crime in the neighborhood, close the police department, relocate it, shut it down, move all the police out, bring in a different set of police. There's something nonsensical about it. There is no serious public thinking today about ways to systemically improve public education for all kids. It's all about how to help kids escape from the system. And this is not sustainable. I believe strongly in the old maxim that it takes a village to raise a child. And what this corporate reform narrative has done is to split the community into warring factions.
It's important that we ensure that all students, regardless of where they're born, what state, that they have a fair and substantive opportunity to learn. Race to the Top, a $4 billion commitment where less than 38 states received resources to protect their students' civil right to an opportunity to learn. If California is a loser, the nation is a loser. If New York is a loser, the nation is a loser. To ensure that all students have the opportunity to learn, we have to guarantee them access to high-quality early education, the supports necessary to recruit and retain highly effective teachers, ensure that they have access to college preparatory curricula, and that they have equitable instructional resources and policies.
The basic government responsibility in education would be, first of all, to ensure that the schools are safe, free of any kind of violations that might endanger children, assure that the civil rights of those who attend school are protected, and to make sure that those who are teaching are well qualified to teach.
We are at a point in our history where the very success of our country depends on providing a high opportunity to learn to all students. And that is the only way. We're all connected.
Each child has special sacred gifts which need to be nurtured, and all children are special and precious in God's eyes, which means that a system in which some children have access to excellent instruction while others don't simply is unacceptable. Let us together affirm the value of educating our children, each of them and all of them.